Hey everyone, welcome to episode 14 of my podcast, Is Breakfast Included? Now today on the podcast, I sit down with Dallas, Texas' own Casey Hess. Now Casey's been playing and touring with bands since the ripe age of 16 years old. And by touring, I don't mean the DFW trifecta of Dallas, Fort Worth, and Denton. No, he's been doing it all over the U.S. We talk about his time in Doosu and the Burden Brothers, and he shares a story that he's never really shared with anyone but his family and close friends. So I was kind of flattered that he talked about it on this podcast. We also talk about his new solo album, Goddess Built, which he wrote and recorded during the 2020 pandemic quarantine. You guys remember that, right? That was like a few months ago. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. Let's check it out. I started out by you telling me who you are.
Well, hello, everyone, and Bernie. My name is Casey Hess. I live in Dallas, Texas. I'm a musician, an artist. I've been performing around here and around the country for, I suppose, 30 years now.
Wow, only 30.
Only 30 years.
Well, when did you start playing guitar and singing? And
I discovered guitar in Carrollton, Texas, where my family and I were living. And it was around 13 years of age. It hit me. I was, and still am, an absolute dork. And so I was either reading Dungeons and Dragons books, playing Dungeons and Dragons, trying to draw, making funny voices happen, and being in love with all kinds of music. And there's really no music background too much with my family. So when the guitar happened, it was a surprise for me that I was so enamored with something. It like a veil was lifted on the world. And I was good at something. And I just ran with it. It was really easy to fall into the guitar, and I did. Like everything else was second.
So around 13, 14 years old?
Around 13, yeah. 14.
When did you start writing your first songs?
About 14 years of age. About a girl. A goth girl. Bless her heart. And I was listening to a lot of Guns N' Roses, Susie and the Banshees, The Cure, anything I could get my hands on. I went to the Colony High School. And there wasn't, at that time, too many punk rockers or anyone that really knew anything that I suppose back in the day you would call alternative music or punk, etc. And I had a friend named Keith Faulkner who lives in Denton, and he made me a mixtape of Bad Brains and Fugazi and Shudder to Think and Dag Nasty and Rites of Spring, and it changed everything.
Like all the stuff that would get you in trouble.
Absolutely. It changed everything. And so I took as many odd jobs and, teenage, working at a pizza joint jobs as I could, and saved everything for gear and would go to Carrollton Music and really I befriended all those cats, and they were total sweethearts, and they sort of showed me the ropes. That was like seeking out that. There was no mentors or instruction. It was really seat of the pants. It was just a lot of maybe following intuition. That might sound too pretentious, but honestly, when you got that fire and you're a teenager.
Yeah. It's not, well, you and I are probably around the same age. I guess coming up, it wasn't like it is now. Like we had to know the guys at the music store.
Absolutely.
To hear the cool music, to find the cool gear.
Absolutely.
Hear the stories.
Yeah. And they would be, switching out a pickup on a guitar with, smoking a cigarette over the guitar that's like a 2-inch ash.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at this ash like, and they're such pros that, they're just telling these stories about when they used to tour or how maybe what we're doing reminds them of how they were back in the day. And so I had a lot of support, and yeah, you just seek it out.
Yeah.
There was really no question as to why, if, or how things are. You didn't even think about blueprints or a template.
Yeah.
And I think I just gravitated towards bands that did that.
Yeah.
They were like just fire and awkwardness. Like I just, it's alive and well with me.
Yeah. And I was going to go to my next question, but you just reminded me, like when I was coming up, going to the music store or buying a cassette and reading all the liner notes, finding out who did what, and then what was that? Or, reading a guitar magazine from page 1 to the last page when it wasn't a bunch of ads like it is now,
Indeed.
And just finding out anything I could, because where I grew up, there was nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Derek Taylor moved to town, and then that was my...
I love Derek Taylor.
I know.
He's brilliant.
Great guy.
He's humble and brilliant. And then his daughter, too.
Yeah.
It's like...
Makes you want to just turn yours into a coffee
seriously,
table, right?
Like, I'm just going to go ahead and bury my guitar. Like, the world's fine.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah. He's one of my oldest friends. So.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so.
He worked on a Descender record.
Oh, right on.
An EP. He mixed it and mastered it, I believe, called Slow and Gold, and that was in 2013.
Right on. We'll talk about that in a second.
For sure.
How soon did you start your first band?
Well, Doosu was my first band. I was 16 years old. At 15, I think one of the reasons it happened was I wanted to do an audition for Arts Magnet in Dallas, and I learned Midnight by Joe Satriani. It's like a double tapping thing. And I went down there and I got the audition, and the instructor was very positive and very supportive, but he said, "You're in Denton County. We already have a line over here in Dallas. So you're great. You would have made it if you were Dallas County." And for me, that kind of, knocked me on my ass a bit, but it also, I guess the punk rocker and the DIY in me was like, well, this is what you do. You just get back up. I'm like, I'm going to start a band in the Colony High School. And lo and behold, this guy named Eric Shutt moved in from the East Coast, and he was just cool, like long blonde hair and leather jacket, and like knew some punk rock stuff too. And so we kind of stoically hit it off, and with a few other friends in high school, formed Doosu, and we didn't have a name. We had crate amps. Nothing against crate. We didn't know what we were doing. We just seat of the pants. There was a lot of feedback, a lot of experimentation, a lot of modulation, and we out of tune. But there was a lot of fire and a lot of reckless abandon. And so we started making Doosu happen. I guess we wanted exciting music that kind of pushed us, and at the same time we were all so stubborn because we're teenagers. We know everything. We were stubborn to where we didn't want someone over us, telling us, to dig a ditch. We wanted control, and we wanted to form this thing on our own. And so we really sort of pushed one another 100%. And then we started getting gigs, and, I made the name up. So because we had a birthday show, our friend's 16th birthday in the backyard. And so we had to come up with a name. And during in-school detention for me, I was just writing all these names down. I was like, well, it rhymes with itself. And I created it. Let's just go with that. And they were like, yeah. So we never really had a second thought about it.
So that was it. It's Doosu.
Yeah.
I guess once you guys hit or made your presence known, here in the Dallas music scene, it's like that's all you heard about for several years was Doosu. Like, you got to see this band. You got to see this band. Once you started playing in the local clubs, Trees, Curtain Club, whatever, that's all I heard. I had to see you guys play for myself and was pretty blown away. And like, I think before this interview, we talked about shitty local bands, and you guys, I expected to walk in there and see a shitty local band, and you guys just got better and better and better.
Thank you.
Until around 97, you guys had to stop for a minute, right?
Yeah, around around the spring of 96. I guess I should preface this, and I want to make this. I'm fine with opening up about this because I think it's relevant, and I think this is what music does. There's a lot of people that go through adversity in life, and they go through trauma, maybe as a kid. And so, music's always a companion, like it's sort of our job to. And after now being 46, it's sort of, I'm more than happy to talk about this instead of hiding it. And for so many years, I hid it. I went through rheumatic fever when I was a kiddo, and that led to rheumatic heart disease, and it really tore my heart up. And I wasn't supposed to be active. No one really knew what was going on or how to deal with it. And at the cost of my health, my folks were incredible, but their hands were tied. When I was a child, they told me at 18, I will have an open heart surgery. And that's just inevitable. And that was the best case scenario. So while we're playing, when Doosu's happening, and I found this force within us and within me, well, I was indestructible, and I kept going without needing an open heart surgery at 18. But at around 20, they said, we had a lot of label attention as well. Columbia Records, just absolute gold to us. And the scene, which is really, it's a disservice to call it a scene, because everyone from Trees to Clearview to just everyone in the industry, the chefs at Green Room, the door guys, the bartender, everyone, we were a community. And it was a second family to me. It was almost more of a family to me. So, when that stuff happened, I had so much support, and we kept it under wraps, man. We told everyone that we were going to take a break writing because we didn't want people to worry. I didn't want people to worry, and I didn't want, honestly, attention to myself, the band, and my family because of my handicap. And I just wanted to be treated normal. And with music, I was treated normal, like for once, instead of like, oh, what do you? Oh, you need a break. That kind of. It's just that just burned me up. Always. So I had this open heart surgery. It was a Ross procedure, and I got a staph infection. And to treat the staph infection, they administered vancomycin. Vancomycin's like the strongest antibiotic on earth at the time in 96. I had just turned 21. And there were a lot of complications. The drug didn't help solve the staph. It helped the staph. The staph infection was unharmed by this drug, and this drug kills all the bacteria in your body. So anything that was defense with me was absolutely wiped out. And this was through central lines, through the chest. So I went from recuperating from an open heart surgery at 21 to my internal organs shutting down. My resting heart rate was 200. I was on dialysis. My kidneys couldn't function. So when that happens, this is not for the faint of heart. my skin chemically started burning off from the inside out, and I couldn't use the restroom. I was again on dialysis. The doctors didn't know really what to do, so I was sort of a case study. My skin, I was in burn victim ICU for a week. No one really knew what to do. I held on for dear life, and with the help finally of the doctors, the surgeon, there were 5 doctors looking over this, unanimously said, okay, we need a second open heart. We're just going to scrape the staph off. But we don't know at his stage if he will survive this. And we need O negative. I'm O negative blood, by the way. It's not the rarest, but it's kind of hard to come by. Yeah. We only take O negative. We're particular. Yeah. And there was a shortage. There were some complications. And there was a lot of agony. Well, I reached out because I saw the fear in my folks' eyes for once in my life that I might not make it. And I felt for everyone. At that point, maybe you're just in survival mode. I really wasn't thinking of death. Yeah. I was, the people that care about you around you, you don't want them hurt. So, I called Chad Lovell from Course of Empire, and him, Buddy Wiley, Mike Dane, Mike Graff went to Redbeard, who had those Q102 blood drives, and they did an emergency blood drive, and they told everyone about my story. They said, this guy is our friend, and he needs O negative blood, and they filled all the blood banks in DFW, like every blood, like A, B, B, O, full. So there were a lot of lives that they saved because I needed.
Because they were helping you.
Yeah. So that was pretty heavy, and I carry that with me every day. There's not a day goes by that I don't think of that. So they did the second open heart, and they scraped the staph off, and my skin was still poisoned. I was still under dialysis, but there was this. I slept for over 24 hours, and I woke, and I looked like a zombie. I looked like The Walking Dead. That's what happens when you can't pee or poo, and it's like a bunch of bad stuff and
that was
burn
before
stuff
it was cool.
And snot. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the OG. I looked horrifying, and I woke up and I really had to pee, and so I said, "Stick the catheter back in." That was a little TMI there, but whatever. To anyone that's going through something similar or has to have an open heart or is handicapped or whatever, that's a word that is silly to me. I'm living proof that you can take that adversity and make it a strength. So please do. And it can easily rip you apart. And there's even something called survivor's guilt, and just, face it, have a strong community and people that care about you, and don't be afraid to open up. But it's supposed to be tough for some of us, and we're built for it. So take all that adversity. It's going to make you stronger than you ever thought. And I'm living proof. It just takes a little bit of effort. So somehow there was this miraculous recovery, and I could use the restroom again. My skin grew back crazy. My heart was fine. I got like a cardio version, which is like, when they do the clear on the movies and shit. And then there was Doosu, and we had this first rehearsal, and I was able to get back with my Sheridan 2 hollow body and my Marshall 900 and blast it with these incredibly talented badasses. And we released Quick Bionic Arms that sort of documented the story.
Yeah.
And we just hit the ground running. I really, honestly, Bernie, didn't know. This is not dramatic. I really didn't know how much longer I had. And the doctor was like, you need to be on this and this and this. So, you might have a stroke. It's at any time, just that kind of thing. And so I'd be walking the streets of Deep Ellum, just quietly thinking of the show at Trees or Clearview, and quietly thinking I could have a stroke at any time. So I was a little, I was a little ornery.
Well, you guys came back stronger than ever after
Yeah.
that. So just hearing that, I knew the bits and pieces of the story. I guess what everyone else knew. So I didn't know any of that. So thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me about
Yeah.
it. It's good to talk about it like this.
If that is really the first time you talked about it, I feel honored that you told me.
Oh.
Because for everyone listening, we don't know each other. Like, we just met about 10 minutes ago.
Seriously, this guy is totally awesome. By the way, you should totally do an interview with him.
So Doosu put out Quick Bionic Arm
Yes.
and two more releases. Or
Yes. Then we toured and played as much as we could, and made a lot of friends and a lot of beautiful bands that we're friends with to this day. We released Aqua Vita, which recently we just remixed on vinyl, and it's sounds really good. Really good. You should totally buy it. dfwlegacy.com.
so the remix, was that a long time coming? Were you guys not happy with it back then? or-
Absolutely. And it was all unanimous. It was, our friend Toby Sheets, who mixed it and recorded it. And, there was so much time restraints and scheduling and finance involved in, release shows that, it was all self-funded. That when it came out, it was just sort of like, okay, it's out. Let's, we got the Tree show, we got the Rick's Place show. Let's just keep this going. Let's just, and it was a little bit of a bummer because we were all really, really proud of it. And in the control room, we could all hear just the powerful, brutal nuances of Todd Harwell and just the Simon Gallup, like David Yao attitude of Chad Diatley's bass playing and the wizardry of the guitars and just the howl of Eric Shutt. And it was just, it was really frustrating for 2 decades to know that it was all just sort of under the surface. And with Paul Malnowski, who did Feng Shui, our final album, when he remixed it, Chad and I just decided, like, we should totally put this on vinyl and remix it. Like, yeah, totally. Like, and so it was like a few years in the making. When we did, it was overwhelming. Really, it's we're so full of gratitude. I'm still sort of walking on air because of it. And Todd and Chad and I got together, for the first time probably since 2003, I think, and signed some copies and had some heart-to-hearts and drank enough to wipe out a village easily, like we do. And the same terrible jokes. So, we still got it.
Yeah. Those jokes never go away.
And it sounds miraculous. I'm very, very proud of it. And just to hear and to see on social media so many people that are taking pictures of their album that they got in, and the smiles, and they have kids now, and
sharing
it's like I'm just like perma grinning, all the time. It's a very and it came out around the time that the release of my solo record in May. So it was for me. I've just been like permanently stoked. It's just I'm very, very grateful.
Well, it's cool that you re-released it, a new remix version, because that time in this scene was very special. Anyone in it, anyone around it, any fan, any band, any club, it was just special.
Yeah.
It's, I get chills just talking about it because like I said, I was in a couple of bands, but I was that guy that went to every, hit every venue. I got to see here. I got to go here and see Doosu. I got to go here and see Edgewater. I got to go here, whatever bands were around. I got to be that guy. So yeah, I was really happy to see that being re-released.
Awesome. Thank you. And I agree. It was easy to, I know even back in the day, none of us really took it for granted, but we did kind of take it for granted because
when it was all gone.
Absolutely. I mean, any given night you could see Captain Audio or Valve on a Tuesday, or someone's side project, or Jump Rope Girls, or just Mike Graff playing, and it was most of the time you got in for free.
Yeah,
everyone was just hugging and kissing and passing a joint or a drink. Like, I cannot finish this. You need just drink this martini. Has like, oh, all right.
Yeah. I had a friend that every time we went out, I'd say, "What's your goal?" And he goes, "I'm going to get 20 drinks for free tonight. I'm not going to pay for any of my drinks."
Right? Because it's Wednesday.
Yeah, but you hit the nail on the head, and we took it for granted.
Yeah.
But anyway, you don't have to say why. Doosu ended around 2002.
Around, I guess, 2003.
Okay.
It was, I guess, 11 plus, but really 11 strong years. And when I look back on it, we took it. I mean, everything else in life was kind of like second. And we would have 2 rehearsals a week. We were very hands-on. We did everything ourselves. I'm very, very proud of it. It's a work ethic that you usually read from either people that, in whatever profession have made it, or you read these, I guess, influencers sort of, I'm not familiar with what you'd call them, public figures, I suppose, where go-getters. But we were that. Our work ethic was, especially looking back now, was absurd. We usually had at least 1 or 2 shows a week and 2 practices, holding down jobs and schedules and trying to keep relationships going. And that went on for 11 plus years. Around that time, Chad and his wonderful wife, Brandy, were expecting a little kiddo. And Eric was just starting the Mermaid Purse. It's a wonderful band that, he had on the side, not unlike I had the Jump Rope Girls stuff on the side. And around that time, this industry is just peaks and valleys. So for us, it was a total lull. We were absolutely spinning our wheels. And as much as I'm proud of our work ethic, it was a lot of work for nothing. The 4 of us never got paid for it. Everything went back to the band. And I'm proud of that, but it really, it can wear a lot of people out. And I got offered to play guitar in the Burden Brothers and all of those guys I immediately got along with for over the years, whatever bands they were in. And at that time, I was absolutely devastated. There was a relationship that went south. I went bankrupt. I was broke. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what the future held with me as far as a third open heart. Was drinking a lot. And so it was definitely a year of change and very electric. When the Burden Brothers asked me to join, it was this miraculous new beginning. And I wanted Doosu to sort of be around and be sort of like how, using the baboon template of maybe once or twice a year play a show, or like Hagfish would do from time to time. I thought that was just brilliant that they would still keep ties and keep this going. I thought it was so punk rock and so true to the heart, where you can have children, you can buy houses, and you can get careers and move on, but not be tethered or almost a slave to what you're supposed to do as a musician. Like, you just keep on keeping at it. It's easier when people are drinking next to you that aren't in a band going, if you guys, Aerosmith used to, like, it's great hearing that, sort of, but living it over and over, it's like, man, it would be great to do something called a vacation.
Yeah.
But so Doosu, we all just sort of agreed to call it quits. And looking back on it, really, I think all of us knew that we loved one another so much, and we were so proud of this. But we all knew that I really don't think that there would be a way that we could grow the way we needed to as people, not just artists, but really as just people in our lives, without really just sort of putting Doosu,
behind you.
Yeah, behind us. And
so there was no animosity when you ended it.
You don't
have to answer that, but
the four of us, you put us in a room, we could talk. Space for any band is, we were a unique and stubborn band. Mm-hmm. So really, I gotta say, for any tiny percent of animosity or ill communication, there was more than enough love and respect and support to sort of wipe it out. And I'm just.
So it's like almost collectively, you guys knew it's time to just
absolutely,
lay it to rest. And,
and it was a respect for one another. I love those guys. They taught me so much, and I was able to expand on the person that I am playing music with these guys and being friends with them. That when all of this happened, some wondrous things occurred. Like families, bands, music. It definitely helped me, and then to kind of regroup with a few of them recently has been like it's just the coolest feeling.
Right on, man.
It really is. Yeah.
So Burden Brothers, how was that? Woo! And for a lot of people who don't know, like the Burden Brothers consisted of Vaden Lewis of the Toadies, Taz Bentley, I believe Casey Orr was playing bass.
Yeah. Man, it was absolute firepower. I felt like it's like being an Avenger on stage. It was just so igniting. I had a few days. I was playing some of the Doosu final shows, as well as learning, I think, 14 songs through a jam box for the Burden Brothers. Yeah. So it was like I was 14 again. I was really excited. And at one point, Taz pulled me aside and in his beautiful, larger-than-life, commanding fashion, he was like, "I want this to be on stage, Thin Lizzy circa 78. And I was like, "You got it." I mean, bell bottoms with runes on them. I was bending over backwards like every time. Those guys pushed me to be a better guitarist and a better performer, even before I hit the stage for the first show with them. And I'm forever indebted to them for that. And it was effortless. It just felt great. With Doosu, we sort of took a back seat, or lead solos took a back seat.
Yeah.
And with Burden Brothers, they had the utmost faith in that I could do anything from acoustically fingerpick songs to belt out backing vocals, to do the back bend on the regular, start the show off myself with Come On Down, just walking out to the crowd and like doing the fist up in the air with the hollow body, and then just walk out in the middle of thousands of people, or like 40, whichever. It doesn't really matter. You know, sort of.
You play like there's thousands, no matter what.
It just feels, it's never it's never been fake. It's
Yeah.
never been a
I could be
posture
wrong, but
or
I think I
posing.
saw you guys in Odessa with Candlebox,
Oh yeah.
and that crowd didn't know what hit 'em.
We had a lot of crowds that was like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah. So that seemed like you had a lot of fun in that band.
It was an absolute blast. That they believed in me to where I could, it's like, look, I don't have to do all the lead solo. Like, yeah, we want you to do like dual solos. Like, okay, I can totally do it. And sure enough, everything that they, threw at me, it was easy to all of a sudden be a lead guitarist when I needed to, or play something gentle on the acoustic,
Yeah.
or throw a guitar around, do the guitar swing, and then jump over a drum riser. I don't know if I did that, but I'm embellishing.
So coming out of Doosu, where you were a guitar player, singer, and a founding member, you walked into the Burden Brothers as a sideman,
Yeah.
to be the guitar player. Was that change? Was it? Did you walk into that position comfortably, or kind of with?
Oh, absolutely comfortably. It felt good that I knew that I had some firepower with me, a bag of tricks. Where it was fun for them to sort of look over, and I guess I was sort of a wild card, and so they would sort of look over at me and go, "Well, can you make your guitar sound like this?" And before the sentence was done, it was like, "You want it like this?" Like, yeah, that. Let's go with that. Or can you do a rendition of this backwards guitar solo? Like, oh yeah, hold my beer, we got this. So it was a high honor, and we really did impact each other in a lot of ways. Those guys are, Zach, Vaden, and Taz, and Orr are like, best friends to me. I adore those guys, and even on tour with Casey Orr and I, we had a few beers. We both we both do these like silly cartoon voices, and it would just be great if it was sort of glum, one of those tour rides,
Yeah.
where you get a couple of beers in you, and then all of a sudden, you're like this. You're just entertaining everyone, where you just bring the mood up, and it's like the whole like the crew and everyone in the band that might have had a bad day is just, we're all just like tear laughing and just like playing off of one another. And so he and I would just riff off of one another, but a lot of times I would just sit back and just be cry laughing. And then he would just be like, I don't know where it comes from. I'm a vessel. It's like, it was a joy. It was, I'm forever grateful.
Well, right on. Well, one of the questions I've only been doing this since March, but one of the questions I ask everyone is, how did the last year affect you? But you wrote an album.
I did.
Over the quarantine.
I did.
And I didn't know you were writing an album. Like I said, I know who you are. I know what you do, and I know what you've done. But you released this song, The Highs and the Lows, and I thought, dude, this came out of nowhere. I think I wrote you. I think I emailed you or messaged you and said, man, this is fucking great.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this album.
Sure.
It's called Goddess Built.
Yeah.
Is there any story behind the title of the album?
Certainly. The entire album ties loosely, with the theme of spring. And I was born on May 5th, May, spring month, new beginnings, rebirth, growth, with calling it Goddess Built. There are so many women in my life. My mother, the top of it all. That really, every woman that got close to me, that I cared for so much, or cared for me, every one of them influenced me to be a better man. And in my personal opinion, Men need that. I have, for the most part, over the last decade, lived alone with my dog. So I usually didn't have, I was fine with being on my own and in solitude and self-sufficient, etc. There's something crucially necessary, I think, if you're on Earth to do that for a little bit. You get to know a lot about yourself. But that being said, when every woman close to me, influenced me, they just wanted me to be a better man. And really, in my 40s now, I really, all said and done, I really just wanted to be a better man. And it's sort of a homage to really every woman out there that has affected me, and every one of them that I ever got close to has, and it's sort of a homage to them. And women there's a lot of crazy shit going on in this world, and there's a lot of things that are backwards, and this album is empowering for everyone. It's supposed to be absolutely, like, it is built to be completely empowering towards the listener. It's supposed to help you no matter what. It's a companion, just like so many albums for me were. And at this time, I didn't want any bells and whistles or any poetic misinterpretations, and I wanted to be proud of it. So I know it's a little bombastic to call your first solo record with your face on it, with your microphone, God is built.
Yeah.
But I wanted to come out guns blazing, and there's a little bit of occult. There's a little occult. There's a little bit of witchiness to it. That is more empowering and more towards being your own template.
Yeah.
And there's really no stone left unturned on this album. It's strong, it's vulnerable, and I'm not hiding anything. So I guess I hope I answered.
Yeah, you did.
I answered the question.
You did.
I should have had a one sentence thing, but
no.
I'm still getting used to this press. So.
No, man.
So thanks for
yeah. Upon you released Island Girls and Favorite Color,
yes,
and then I realized this album was not going to be the album that I expected. This is a you have completely reinvented yourself on this album, and every day I listen to it. One day, Favorite Colors is my favorite song. Today was Us Wolves. Woo. I keep going back to the highs and the lows because I'm a meathead rocker, man. And that
this is high praise.
That song just, to me, just kicks me in the face. It's a great song, but there's so many good songs, and there's hints in your voice of like a Leonard Cohen. There's hints in some songs, almost a new romantic 80s vibe in your voice. I don't know if you pulled all your influences and put them on this album because it was going to have your name on it. Is that what you did?
Yep. Yeah. This was a perfect record for using, I guess, as much range in my voice as I could, and that I've wanted to for years, and doing it on my terms. And the guys that I worked with that mixed and helped produce and master, it was exciting for them as well. Using the baritone in a rock band, sometimes it doesn't cut through. Like, as you know, it doesn't cut through unless you have some money behind you and you got some sound guys helping you out. It's hard for that to cut through. And in the 90s too, there was a lot of, and so a lot of us just, I'd rather be more like a Perry Farrell than someone go, oh, he's trying to be like blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Better. Like, but I always had this baritone, and I always loved, those cats singing Sinatra and the romanticism of Cohen and the poetry. And I wanted that's such a part of me, and I really wanted this to be 100% everything that I could give in an album. And like I liken Island Girls to Robert Smith on a boat, or Favorite Color was done in 2012 in my apartment, and then it just sort of was buried for years. And then I redid it with Jordan Richardson and Taylor Tatch, and Todd Pipes. And so it was almost like during the pandemic and COVID, it was such a tough time, but it felt so good to be so focused on this, where I really didn't think about anything else other than getting these songs out. Really almost like I had no choice. I probably nothing good would have come if I didn't do this album, for me personally. Okay. So yeah, with nothing was fabricated or things were thought out, but there's a lot of things that happen naturally and organically that a lot of times when it does happen, especially in the realm of music and art, when it does start happening with the right people, especially when you can recognize it, you notice it immediately, and you can't help but go, whew, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're going to roll with this. We're going to roll with this. He just added drums and mellotron to this track. Okay. Dustin Fleming just sent me acoustic tracks. Like, whew, okay, I'm going to sing over this. And
did it feel good as you were writing? Did it feel good to know, like, hey, this is my thing. I don't have to present it to a band and say, you guys dig this?
Yeah.
Did it feel good saying, like, hey, I dig this. I'm going to put it on the album?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There were a lot of texts during COVID. I'm sure everyone has this story where you send, some supportive texts, emotionally supportive texts to your friends, or you're vulnerable enough to go, I really need some help right now. And there were a lot of musicians and band members of other bands and myself that were, I would be back on that. We're in my place, ladies and gentlemen, right now. And I'm looking out at my porch. There were so many nights where I would be out there with headphones and a smoke and a beer, and be in numerous texts with other musicians that were going through the same exact thing I was going through, and we would just help one another out. And that encouragement was great. And then when I would send them demos, it felt like it did in the beginning of the Doosu years for me, when you just don't know how much you're influencing someone. And, anyone from Jordan Richardson's work to Deep Red, Rose Garden, Leah Lane, like Scott White, Mike Graff, Vaden Lewis, Taz, Taylor, to be inspired by all of them was it was enough ammunition for me, where there are a lot of times where I was just so stoked about, like, all right, well, I'm alone in this house. I got just enough equipment to pull this off.
Yeah.
I got a Taylor Tatch on my side. I got a Jordan Richardson and a Todd Pipes on my side. Like, it was really, I don't have work. It's almost like a sort of dark dream, like crisis, where it was sort of like some things didn't faze me, some things didn't surprise me. There was a lot of good. The whole album really is. I did this interview with Central Track, where I sort of likened the theme of it is turning adversity into strength. And I know it sounds sort of redundant, like, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of work and it's a practice.
Yeah.
It's not like you've arrived at the island and life's a vacation that you've figured it out. It's not that at all. What it is for me is now this sort of higher level of really sort of, putting an album out called Goddess Build. It's sort of me going, you got to behave, motherfucker. Like, why don't you bring it for the world instead of being a little shithead.
Right.
Like, try and balance it out. So, turning adversity into strength is like, it starts from the first of the feedback of highs and lows to the tape slow climactic ending of She Walks the River from like the final track.
Right on, man. There's a couple of songs I want to talk to you about because I really like this album. And I'm not just saying that because I'm standing in front of you. Like, I'll be honest with you, and that's the only way I can be. Favorite Colors took me a minute. When you released that, I listened to it and I was like, I don't know. And it was probably I'm the type of person when I hear something, I'm like, well, I'll listen to it next week. And then it's just like that. I clicked with it and I thought, this is a goddamn good song.
Oh.
Excuse my French. But, so it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. Like I said, every day when I'm listening to it, and I have been for a while since it's been released, like something else pops out. But this one popped out today. Let's talk about Highs and Lows first.
Sure.
What brought that song on? Because there's a lot of really cool, intricate guitar going on. It might not be intricate, but it sounds intricate. And you mentioned May in the lyrics.
That's right.
And it's a rocker, man. It's a great way to kick off an album.
Well, thank you. With Highs and Lows, I drove to Dripping Springs, where Audio Styles, the studio of Taylor Tatches, is. And I had just enough money to have one day there. And him and his family treated me great. And for a long time coming, he and I wanted to work together since working together with Burden Brothers. He was an intern at BPL Studios. And we just hit it off. Like, he's just a delight to work with. It's effortless. And when I booked this time, I said, look, I've never really worked with fuzz pedals enough. I love fuzz pedals. I want to work with fuzz pedals. I want to be loud. It's been a long time since I've got to be loud. But I want to do some seriously sort of march, like a marching sort of anthemic, like a baller, like a total banger, like so many. I mean, Beck, Cage the Elephant. There's so many, just
Yeah.
Rage Against the Machine. Just so many bands have that sort of song where they're talking about just Audio Slave, just owning it and just empowering and being just unapologetically being a badass. And I was like, I don't know. I didn't have anything planned. And I spent an hour with that equipment, and he put this sort of like drum machine loop under it, and I just went for it, and he cut it up. And, we would take a break and have some beers and smoke cigarettes and just talk about, just catch up. And then he would go straight back in and lay bass down. We'd come out and then he'd go back in. And so I took that, like the fuzz guitars and the drum and bass, and I went back home and added a lot of affected guitars, a lot of sort of, backwards delays, a lot of EBO, modulated guitars that there's no keyboards on it. There's no synths. It's all of the other stuff is
Guitars.
I love synths, but I wanted the guitars I love the reckless abandon and the rawness and the viciousness that a guitar could, like, I wanted this album to be walking into a forest. I wanted it to be wild, where you could look in one direction and be completely mesmerized with the intricacies. And at the same time, you got to keep your guard up. And there's so many things that are familiar, but at the same time, it's this living, you're walking in this living area, and you realize how small you are, and you realize what, how connected you are to it. So I wanted all of the guitars and all of the synths to be organic. I wanted it to sound living. And so then, I was so stoked about everything that really, and it goes with a lot of the songs on this album. Lyrics are a bitch. I don't know if you ever wrote them, but
No.
good.
See how quick I
They're a
answered that?
bitch. They're a bitch. Most of the time, and then sometimes when they come, it's just within 5 to 20 minutes. There's this thing that happens, but most of the time, for me at least, I'm throwing them into the fire or crumpling them up and throwing them into the trash. With Highs and Lows, it came out of nowhere, and within 20 minutes, the song was written, and then I laid maybe one or two. There wasn't too many takes. I just belted out how I felt and sent it to Taylor, and then Taylor, added backing vocals and sent me, like, what are the lyrics to this, and then when he sent it back to me, I was completely blown away. I was just smeared.
Was that the first track you wrote for the album, or did that happen after a few songs were written?
It happened after a few songs. It was probably around the middle.
Okay.
But it wouldn't have materialized without that trip to Audio Styles. Just the magic of Taylor's influence and being in Dripping Springs.
It's funny how that happens, right?
Yeah. It was a total like, oh, it's happening. Just roll with it. You know how this feels. Get your pen, grab a beer.
Like I was saying, every time I listen to it, something else pops out. Absolute Improbable Love.
Yeah.
It's probably one of my favorite tracks on the album. Awesome. And like I said, I hear that and your voice on there, it reminds me, and I mean this in the best way possible, it reminds me of those big 80s pop bands.
Yeah.
Kick ass. OMD, something like that. Like those big anthems that came out. And I hear that voice, and I was like, man, I'm going to ask him about that. So I'm asking you. Did you have that in mind, or am I just imagining that?
Certainly I did. There's been so many times that this album is so much, like just really years in the making, where I wanted the guitars to be exciting and inventive. I wanted to pay a little bit of homage to maybe the tones that I helped, on this musical path. I wanted to throw a little bit of that, I guess a little bit of flex, like I did this, but at the same time make it new and exciting, and again very wild and organic, like a forest, not a garden, but a forest. And with that as the bed, to have this sort of crooning 80s confessional that was poetic, it was sort of, for me, just finally really embracing like the flaws of it and just like letting go of what, like whomever was the one that got away years ago, or that I wronged and I knew it, and like the confessional of it is this sort of, I wrote the lyrics near my fire pit, and I was laughing so much that I was sort of tearing up, just that sort of absurd, like, who is this guy just losing his shit over there in his backyard? When I started writing the lyrics and hearing how the vocals would sound, it felt like taking something that for so many years viewed as heavy, and just making something fun, and just accepting that maybe I am just obsolete, impossible, absolute, improbable love. And like once you get to that, and then the lyrics of like, and in that I forget. Through so many songs over the years, I throw in those lyrics of I forget or I forgot like who I am. And a lot of times with music or people, it's kind of like snapping me out of it. And with this song Forever Now, it sort of snaps me out of those doldrums. Like if you're feeling like that, own up to it or change it or it was a gigantic release, and it was so much fun to use, like just like the chasing lightning, like those little vocal things, and then sort of more of like the crooner stuff, and then just my tenors during the chorus, and then having that solo that sounds like spaceships having sex was it's like, are we Human League now? Like, yes, we are totally Human League in outer space. Maybe Bowie's hanging out, on the moon. I don't know.
Well, all that comes across in that song. It's a great song, man.
Thank you.
Like it's one of the only ones I hit like play again, and then I go on to the next one.
Kick ass.
So it's a great song. It's a great album. And have you ever had any vocal training, or is all that natural?
It's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
No vocal training.
Well, man, like I said, this album is completely all you, and it's a. I'm gonna quit saying it's a really good album. Sounds like I'm really kissing your ass.
Keep it up.
But no, I just
Thank you.
Anyone that hasn't heard it, I tell them like, you should just check it out. Just check it out. You don't have to buy it right now, but just check it out.
Awesome.
You can stream it anywhere.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
The name of the podcast is called Is Breakfast Included?
Mm-hmm.
And if breakfast was included right now, man, what would you have?
Ooh, I know exactly what I'd have. Well, I'd probably have an alcoholic beverage, and then a side of coffee, just so I feel better about myself. But I would have usually like a traditional English breakfast, like beans, bangers, 3 eggs, potatoes, maybe like a side of fruit. I would really go for it, Bernie. It would be hearty. It would be, and then maybe I'd take a nap or chop some wood afterwards.
Yeah. You're the second person to mention the English breakfast to that question.
Oh, really?
The other one is a good friend of mine who has a band called the Gamma Sinin.
Okay.
And they're really good. You should check them out.
I totally will.
But man, if you look back, like you said, over 30 years, you've been doing this. You've been doing it, more than half your life. If you look back to before Doosu, any of that, is there ever anything else you wanted to do? If you could go back and do it all, would you choose the same path? Or is there something in your mind right now at your mid-40s that you would say, man, I should have done that, or I could have done that? Or would you just do it all the same?
I would definitely pursue music.
You'd do it all the same.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Thanks.
Because you've made a lot of good music, along with Doosu and Descender and the Burden Brothers, or you've entertained a lot of people. Like I said, I just met you when I got here, but I've wanted to meet you for a long time.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm sure we've crossed paths at shows. But,
certainly, yeah.
But that's it, man. Where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram as at Casey, C-A-S, right? CASEYHE, and then there's 2 5s. I mean, 8 years ago, it made sense at the time. Casey Hess, at Casey Hess on IG. The last 2 S's are 5s, just ingenious. I'm kidding. And then on all platforms, everything from Apple Music to Spotify, Amazon, you can find God Is Built, the album. On Facebook, feel free to look me up. It's new territory for me. A lot of this is sort of, like footwork. A lot of like just hit the ground running and really doing things like total DIY, hands-on is what that's how we were built and how we raised, these bands is just getting out there and doing things. And now with social media, really, I have a few friends that are absolute sweethearts that look at me and just giggle and go, "You need to do this. Let me do this. I will come here." you need the hashtag. Like they're really, it's beautiful that so many wonderful, drastically younger, smarter people care enough to go, hey, get over here, you goof. Here's how you do this, and so these devices for me are new territory, and it's exciting to use this.
Same here. I have someone that helps me with this podcast.
Yeah,
she's my partner, so to speak. And I had no clue about hashtags. Yeah,
me neither.
So
yeah, Reels, IGTV. I'm like, what is the phone doing?
Yeah, but yeah, it's good to have those people around you. I'm technically ignorant. Like,
unless it's a guitar pedal board.
I record it, I edit it, then I just send it. And then I'm like, you do your magic with it. Yeah.
Totally.
Send it to the internet.
Yeah. I need more people that will help me with that, because a lot of times it's a lot of this whole solo record. You'll definitely see a lot of trial and error.
Hey man, well,
and I love it. I mean, that's what it's kind of all about, right?
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, man. Is there anything you want to say before we end it?
Well, this made my week. Wow. Man, thank you all for tuning in. This was an absolute delight to be on this show with Bernie. Check the album out if you want. Stay strong. Don't be afraid to be compassionate. Go see live music.
All right, man.
There you go.
Thanks a lot, Casey.
Thank you, Bernie.
Right on. That was Casey Hess. Follow him on Instagram at Casey Hess. That's CASEYHE, and then replace the 2 S's with 2 5s. Kind of clever. Check out his new album, Goddess Built, on all streaming platforms: Apple Music, what's the other one? Spotify, Amazon Prime. Support local music, support local businesses. You can probably pick the album up on vinyl too. Well, all right, guys, I'm done here. Have a great day, and until next week, like Casey said, take care of each other.